Hi and welcome to another edition of Clickteam Fusion for beginners. It's been 2 weeks odd since I've posted my last video, and that's because I have got married in that time, so I apologise if you are waiting for my next video and you had to wait a little bit longer, but that's fine. Because we're going to do the last of our sort of smaller videos, and my idea of trying to create an extended project is going to come into fruition. I'm going to try and create a bigger game, but cut it up into smaller videos and do a little bit each week, so that we can see sort of a stronger end product than we can do in a short half an hour long video. This has actually been requested by someone who's messaged me and said that this is the project they wanted to do and they just wanted to know how to go about it. So I'm going to create a virtual piano. The iPhone was famed for a virtual piano on all its adverts when the original iPhone came out, that you could press the keys and they made the sounds of a piano. So we're going to be doing that today. So the first thing we're going to be looking at is creating the keys for the piano, so the actual rectangles, so it shouldn't be too much of a problem. We'll do those with loops so that we can just have one key and then replicate it many times rather than trying to create all the keys. We're going to assign sound effects for each of the keys, which I've downloaded from a website, and you can find your own sounds for it. The ones I've used are royalty free, and possibly I'll put a link for them if I've still got the link for them. When each key is pressed, each sound plays, so the sound you'd expect plays. Now the keys I've picked I think aren't accurate at all, but it gives you the idea. I think if any of you play the piano, you're going to be expecting probably different sounds for each key, but that's fine. And we're going to allow multiple keys to sound, so when you play a piano and you press one key and then another key, the second key doesn't stop the sound from the first one, and that's going to be quite difficult, so we're going to have a look at how we're going to do that. Okay, so let's get started. Let's open Clickteam Fusion and wait for it to load up. Exciting stuff. Okay, so we're going to click on File, New, to start a new project. And now we're going to save it, and the reason why we're going to save it straight away, we should probably do that anyway, is because we actually want to store some information in where this is saved. So we're going to want to so let's go to the desktop. Okay, so key, piano, virtual piano. And I'm probably going to copy that. So we're going to create a folder called virtual piano, double click, and we're going to name our application virtual piano.mfa. Save. Excellent. Okay, so let's double click on the frame editor, and we probably want to have white keys. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on frame 1 and I'm going to change the background color to sort of pink or something. So double click anywhere and click on active, and let's create our piano key. So double click on it, and we want our piano key just to be white, so let's click on this one and just drag the rectangle across, so make it all white. Now there's different ways of doing it, but I find that easier. So click on rectangle filled, click on the color you want and just drag it across. Click OK, and we want to create our key. Now I know there's 7 sound effects, and I probably need this to be quite wide, especially if I'm going to make this an iPhone app. So I probably want it about 50 wide, which is the absolute minimum width you want to be able to allow the user to touch it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a background in as well, so that we can do the same things we've done in previous videos. And so quick background, and we can use the backdrop as a border around the keys. Now I'm not going to include the black keys, I'm just going to include the white ones for the purposes of this project. Okay, that looks fine. Let's try and put this at a sensible number that we can easily remember. So we want this to be 0. Let's make it 150 so we can easily remember where it is. Okay, we want the width of that to be, you don't have to do this because it goes off the screen anyway, but 640. So let's make the width of that 640 to make it look neat. Okay, so that's going to be our keyboard, sort of the border of them. Now we want to decide how much border to have. So 5 pixels seems good. So for the height of that, let's make the height quite standard as well. Let's make the height 250. So this will have to be 260 for 5 at the top and 5 at the bottom. Okay. Right, that seems to make sense. Now, need to do a bit of calculations here to see whether 11 of these are going to fit. Now, you could do the calculations, or you could just go ahead and program it and see, and just make changes later. So let's do the none calculation approach. So I click on the event editor, and I want this done start a frame, and we're going to do our our one loop, because we don't need to do any going down. So create keys, and you'll always want to copy that because you'll need it to create the event. I know there's 11 sounds that I've got, so I want to do 11 of them. Right click, on loop, create keys. So that fires off the loop create keys 11 times, and then for every one we want to do something. So we want it first of all to create a key, and we want it just at 0, 0. Okay, so it's created the key, and then we want to position it. So the position, I can't remember the Y coordinate, but we did have one. Was it 155? Let's have a look and see if I'm right on that. So the Y position is 150, and then we wanted a 5 border around it, so that's going to be fine. So 155, and then we want to position the X, but this is the thing we want to change. So we always want it to have 5 on the left hand side, plus the loop index, which is going to start at 0 and then go all the way up to 10, because 10 is the 11th number if you start at 0. We want it to include the width, which is 50, so we want it to do that, 50, and then we want to add 5 each one. So let's just close that up and see how that goes. Fingers crossed, run frame, and I've made a silly mistake, and we know what the mistake is. As I said, I always like things having the action point at the top left for this very reason. In my head, everything's always at the top left. So what the problem is, if you double click this, where's the action point? The action point's right in the center, and that's what Clickteam now does. So we'll just click it at the top left, and let's try it again. Run frame, and there we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So that's exactly what we want. Now the problem with those 11 is they're identical 11s. We don't want identical 11s, we want to be able to distinguish between them. So the way of doing that is set them each an alterable value. We'll just use A, and we want it just to store which key it is. Okay, so each one of those, so if I run that, each one of those, that has an alterable value A of 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, which is perfect. Okay, now the reason why I'm so keen on saving this time is because we will have a folder which is where our game will live. And it means if we've got assets we want to use, which I have my keys, which if I double click on them, there's my keys, and I've numbered them nicely, I can just drag them in there and they can become part of the application. Now it's quite common for this to be called assets and then you put stuff in there. this is the only asset I'm going to use, so I'm just going to leave it as keys for now. Okay, so let's go back into our project. So I've moved the sounds into our project file, and we'll go deeper into using file structures for your application and games in later videos, because it's very difficult to move on from the basics without having a really nice structured application directory. Now what we want to do is say if the user with the mouse clicks on an object, so where are we? User clicks on an object, left button, single click, which is the one you're most used to, and it's going to be on the key. And I'm going to go back in and I'm just going to change that to key so that we know what it is. So if the user clicks on a key, then I want it to play a sound. So I'm going to do this really basic first. I'm just going to say, right, play sample, and I'm just going to hard code where it goes. Okay, so virtual piano keys 1. Okay, let's see where this goes. Application. It's a bit boring because it's always the same. Okay, so let's close that down. Bit boring, always the same. So we want this to be smarter. We want this to figure out which key it's supposed to be playing. Okay, so let's click and drag that and let's try again. So play sample, and what I want to do, the problem with what I've just done is every time you play a sample again, it just what am I talking about? So every time you play a sample, it's playing on the same channel, so every time I start it again, it starts the sample again, but a piano doesn't work like that. So notice it just started again. So what I can do is play them on different channels. Now different channels mean, well, you can't have more than one sound play on a single channel. So if you have a sound on channel 1 and then you play another sound on channel 1, the first sound will stop. So what you want to do is play all the notes on different channels so that you can hear them simultaneously, which you will be able to do on a keyboard or a piano. The second thing is I'm looking in this and I'm trying to play a sample from, so let's have a look into that. Let's edit that. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to I want to find some way of importing all of these. So okay, so what I will say is I will insert something, insert a condition, and I will test to see if the alterable value of A is equal to 0, because if it's equal to 0, I want to play sample 1. I'm going to click on 3 on the 3 bit here, copy, Control and C, then Control and V to paste it, and I'm going to say if the alterable value is 1, we don't want to play sample 1, we want to play sample 2. And play sample 2, and we want to play that on a separate channel. Copy and paste again, number 2, and I want to play, keep clicking on the wrong one, I want to play sample 3 on channel 3. Let's see if that works. Okay, that's a bit of a racket. Okay, so if you carry this on and just update all of the things, and sometimes these things get quite boring, and I would be thinking now, well, how can I make this simpler? How can I do this programmatically with loops? Now I couldn't, and perhaps this is me being silly, but I couldn't find a way of picking what sound to play from. Let's just check I've got this right. Hang on. 1 1 2 2 3 3 4 4 5 5 6 7. It should be 6 6. Okay. Sometimes there are probably better ways to do things, but the better ways just take longer. And if I've only got 11, then do I spend ages trying to find a better way, or do I just sit there and just get the 11 done? Well, let's just sit there and get the 11 done. But sometimes you don't necessarily like the way you're doing something, and that's what spurs you on to find better ways. But at the moment, I think this is the best way that I can think of doing this. Okay, so that's all of them lined up. Let's see. As I said, they're not at all correlation to anything on a piano. It does sound pretty awful. Now what you want to do probably next is be able to hold down the mouse and do a little bit of one of these. And the way of doing that is when the mouse is pressed, activate or trigger an alterable value somewhere, and if the mouse is over any of these, then instantly play them once. But that's a very basic virtual piano for now, and it works. Not the best programming in the world ever, but it does the job. I think the most frustrating thing for me at the moment is to try and figure out how to play the sound. So let's just copy and paste this. How do you play the sound from a file that you don't know? So play sample file on a specific channel. Ah, there we go. So I could use expression and enter the file name. Now, alright, this is good. Excellent. Let's try and replace all this code. So first thing we need to do is find the application file name, which is what I wanted to go through this video. So this is a good thing that's done. Now, the application file name, Clickteam Fusion inherently knows where your application saved, and that's called the application path name or application file name. So this is the file here that it knows that it lives in. So we need to find some way of getting that, and Clickteam has a function for it, and it makes it really easy. File names, application path name, and that's it. Now it's not directly, the file we want is not directly in here, it's in this folder called keys, which I'm going to copy. So we need to say plus, go into the file name keys, which I don't think you need that / but I don't think it kills it, and get, and we're going to put a number in there, and .wav, I think they're .wav. Let's just check, keys, .wav, okay. And we wanted to get the alterable value of the key, alterable value A, but as we know, that's a number, so we need to cut that and change it to a string. Now the first one is 0, and in my file structure the first one is 1, so we're going to add 1 to that before it goes to a string. Click OK. And the channel number we also want to be that alterable value of A, and the alterable value we also want to be that and the channel number we also want to be that alterable value of A but +1, because the channel number shows here it starts at 1. Click OK, and now we can adapt this. So user clicks left button on that, that's fine. Now we don't want it to be alterable value of A equals that specific number, so we can delete that. Now let's see if we can delete all of these. So I'm going to delete and you can select more than one by clicking the first one you want to select and hold down shift and click the last one you want to select. That's what I've just done then. Okay, file, application. Hurrah! We've managed to do it in 3 lines of code. 1 line of code setting up the loop. 2nd line of code actually just creating all the keys. 3rd line of code putting all the actions for all the keys. Hurrah! I knew we would get there in the end. So as I said, there's loads of ways you can extend this. It's not the most pretty thing. You can try and calculate this to make it centered and without this bit at the end. You could have some text up here. You could have more keys. You could have the black keys, the minor and major keys, whatever they're called. And you can just create more sounds. You could have it play different effects, guitar, strings for instance, saxophone. You could have different keys for different notes on the saxophone or whatever. So loads of stuff you can do this, but this is the very basics. This is how you would do it, and it guarantees the fact it looks amazing because they're all spaced out equally. If you try to sit there and do this yourself without doing loops, then it's very difficult to get them spaced correctly. And if you wanted a new instrument or more keys or less keys, then with this you just change a number. So if I wanted 10 keys, I literally would just change this number. Let's say 5 keys. I only want 5 of the keys. Run application. All works fine, just with the 5 keys. So I didn't have to do anything else apart from change a number. And that's the beauty of good programming, is if you have something you can change one number and it affects everything, then you are a really good programmer. If you want to make one simple change, but you have to change everything because of the way you've programmed it, then you are not a very good programmer. All programming applications rely on this sort of principle that everything is stored in one place. Right, that's enough for me today. Thank you very much for watching, and if you like this video, click like. If you want to see more videos, click subscribe. Thank you.